We are live from New Delhi. You're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. A broad consensus has been achieved between India and China, says India's Defence Minister Rajnath Singh. France holds Lebanon aid conference in Paris amid Israel-Hezbollah conflict. South Korean President vows response as North Korean troops head to Ukraine. Disputes and differences must be settled by dialogue and diplomacy, India's External Affairs Minister Dr. Jaishankar at BRICS. And severe cyclonic storm Dana expected to make landfall over the Odisha West Bengal coast later at night. High alert issued. So India's Defence Minister Rajnath Singh on Thursday said broad consensus has been achieved between India and China to restore ground situation based on the principles of equal and mutual security. Speaking after inaugurating the second Chanakya Defence Dialogue in New Delhi, he added that both sides have been involved in talks both at diplomatic and military levels to resolve their differences in certain areas along the LAC.
India and China have been involved in talks both at diplomatic and military levels to resolve their differences in certain areas along the LAC. Pursuant to the talks, broad consensus has been achieved to restore ground situation based on the principles of equal and mutual security. The consensus achieved includes patrolling and grazing to traditional areas. This is the power of engaging in continuous dialogue, because sooner or later solutions will emerge. And I think there is no better place to highlight this power of dialogue than this platform of Chanakya Defence Dialogue.
And resilient supply chains are key to national security and economy, experts feel. DD India correspondent Vishal Baristo caught up with the Economic Advisory Council member to the Prime Minister of India at the Chanakya Defence Dialogue to find out more.
We are here at the Chanakya Defence Dialogue, and I have with me Dr. Sanjeev Sanyal from the Prime Minister's Economic Council. Dr. Sanyal, when you say ships, chips and information, how critical are they in the changing geopolitical situation?
When we are talking about supply chains, we are a large economy, we import a large number of things, we export a large number of things. Now, I personally think that if you're thinking of supply chain resilience, we have got to invest and create the circumstances that we build a strong shipbuilding industry. We have much more in flagging and ownership of ships. And that requires us to begin to make certain changes in the way we, for example, classify infrastructure and so on. But I think this is something we need to pay a lot of attention to.
Now, talking about chips, it is another very important topic as far as the resilient supply chain is concerned.
Yes, I mean, moving from ships to chips. Here again another example. We had the cars, we could build cars, we have a huge automobile industry. But because there were few chips were not available, we couldn't use them ourselves or export them. Now, you know, small countries may have to just suffer it. But we are a large country. We are the end user of many of these products. So at least for some of these things like ships or chips or APIs, we need to be willing to protect them and use industrial policy to create clusters within the country.
Talking about the Chanakya Niti and the supply chain of information, you've quoted example of Canada. So why does India need to really work on that?
Today, as we emerge as the world's third largest economy, we are not punching our weight. So we need to be a part of the global conversation, not just as a taker of information or narratives, but as a creator of information and narratives.
Dr. Sanyal has made some very important points, and definitely the experts here would work upon that. With cameraman Ajit and Keshav in Delhi, this is Vishal Baristo for DD India.
And India's External Affairs Minister Dr. Jaishankar today reiterated Prime Minister Narendra Modi's "not an era of war" quote-unquote remark, saying the agreements between countries must be respected and international law should be adhered to without exception.
The situation in the Middle East, West Asia for us, is an understandable concern. There is a widespread anxiety that the conflict would spread further in the region. Maritime trade has also been deeply affected. The human and material consequences of further escalation are truly serious. Any approach has to be fair and durable, leading to a two-state solution.
And representing PM Modi at the BRICS outreach session in Russia's Kazan, Dr. Jaishankar also stressed that disputes must be settled through dialogue. He said BRICS is a statement in itself and can make real difference. In this context, highlighted 5 key points. And strengthening and expanding platforms of independent nature to widen choices and avoid being leveraged, reforming established institutions and mechanisms, especially UN Security Council in permanent and non-permanent categories, democratizing global economy through creating more production hubs to build resilient, redundant and shorter supply chains, correct distortions in global infrastructure to enhance logistics, mitigate risk, sharing experiences and new initiatives that are of common interest. And on the sidelines of the BRICS summit, External Affairs Minister Dr. Jaishankar interacted with students in Russia's Kazan. He talked about PM's announcement of opening a new consulate in the city. Meanwhile, Russian President Vladimir Putin will meet UN Chief Antonio Guterres for the first time in over 2 years on the sidelines of the last day of the 3-day 16th BRICS meeting. According to Kremlin, the pair is expected to discuss the conflict in Ukraine as well as the escalating crisis in West Asia. Guterres has repeatedly criticized Moscow's military offensive against Ukraine, saying it sets a dangerous precedent for the world. The two men last saw each other in the first weeks of offensive when Guterres traveled to Moscow during Russia's offensive in South Ukraine's Mariupol. Now, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman said India will retain restrictions on investments from nations with which it shares land borders. Speaking at the Wharton Business School in the US on Tuesday, Sitharaman said, and I quote her, "We want business, we want investment, but we also need some safeguards because India is located in a neighborhood that is very, very sensitive." She added that, "I cannot blindly receive foreign direct investment. It is the truth that money is required for investment, but we should not forget its source." Asserting that 1 in every 6 people in the world is an Indian, she said that no country, whether the US or China, can ignore New Delhi today. She made the remarks at a panel discussion organized by the Center for Global Development in Washington, D.C.
India's priority is not to impose its dominance. In the sense we are the biggest democracy, we have in the world the largest population, but to enhance its influence. And you just cannot ignore our economy and the way in which it is growing. So you really can't ignore. And also the geopolitical neighborhood in which we live. No country, the US, which is very far away from us, or China, which is very close to us, cannot ignore us.
Now, German Chancellor Olaf Scholz will be visiting India at the invitation of Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Thursday. The German Chancellor, along with PM Narendra Modi, will co-chair the 7th Intergovernmental Consultations on October 25th. The two leaders will also hold bilateral talks to discuss enhanced security and defense cooperation, greater opportunities for the mobility of talent, deeper economic cooperation, green and sustainable development partnership, and collaboration in the area of emerging and strategic technologies. Discussions will also focus on important regional and global developments. Both the leaders will also address the 18th Asia-Pacific Conference of German Business being held in New Delhi on October 25th. Chancellor Scholz has visited India twice last year for a bilateral state visit in February 2023 and to attend the G20 Leaders Summit in September 2023. India and Germany have a strategic partnership since 2000. The two countries are celebrating 50 years of science and technology collaboration this year. Now, India's space sector is poised for an exponential growth with the Union Cabinet today approving establishment of $120 million venture capital fund for space sector under aegis of InSpace. The move is set to provide a significant impetus to innovation and entrepreneurship in space technology and applications. Information and Broadcasting Minister Ashwini Vaishnaw highlighted the transformative impact of the decision. Take a listen.
कई जो रिच कंट्रीज अगर हम यूरोप की देखें, उन रिच कंट्रीज में जितने यूनिकॉर्न हैं, उनसे ज्यादा आज भारत में यूनिकॉर्न्स हैं। ये 10 वर्षों का स्टार्टअप इकोसिस्टम को डेवलप करने का एक बड़ा अचीवमेंट है। और स्पेस जैसे सेक्टर में, जिस सेक्टर की बहुत जबरदस्त ग्रोथ होने वाली है, जो एक बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट स्ट्रैटेजिक सेक्टर है, और जिस सेक्टर में इनोवेशन बहुत बड़ी मात्रा में होने वाला है, 1000 करोड़ रुपए का वेंचर कैपिटल फंड सेटअप किया जाएगा स्पेस सेक्टर के लिए। एंड दिस रिफ्लेक्ट्स our Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji's commitment toward creating more and more opportunities for our youth, more and more opportunities for our entrepreneurs, and more opportunities for innovative startups.
Now, severe cyclonic storm Dana is surging towards Bengal Odisha coast and is expected to make landfall in northern Odisha during the night between Thursday and Friday. It is projected to strike as a severe cyclonic storm with wind speeds reaching up to 120 kilometers an hour. Odisha prepared for the storm's impact by evacuating between 3 to 4 lakh people from vulnerable regions. As a precaution, Biju Patnaik International Airport will halt operations from Thursday evening until 9 a.m. on Friday. Flight operations at Kolkata Airport will also be suspended for 15 hours from 6 p.m. on Thursday. National Disaster Response Force teams and military rescue units are on standby in coastal areas of 2 states to tackle the potential cyclone impact. And India Met Department DG Dr. Mrityunjay Mohapatra said severe cyclonic storm Dana's most adverse impact will be over Odisha, followed by West Bengal coastal districts.
साइक्लोन डाना अभी एक सीवियर साइक्लोन स्टॉर्म जैसे उत्तर पश्चिम बंगाल की खाड़ी में केंद्रीभूत है और ये धीरे धीरे उत्तर उत्तर पश्चिम दिशा में गति कर रहे हैं। अभी इसका विंड स्पीड 100 से 110 किलोमीटर प्रति घंटा रफ्तार में चल रहा है इसका सेंट्रल एरिया में, और ओडिशा और वेस्ट बंगाल कोस्ट के आसपास अभी 60 से 70 किलोमीटर प्रति घंटा विंड स्पीड चल रहा है।
Well, it's still to come on this edition of DD India Live. Ankara launches striking targeting Kurdish fighters in Iraq and Syria in response to Wednesday's terror attack. And things getting difficult for Canada's Justin Trudeau as dissident MPs call for his resignation. And we show you how English singer Paul McCartney's performance dazzled Argentine fans in Cordoba.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the economic brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. Some more stories. An aid conference for Lebanon opened in Paris on Thursday in hope of raising hundreds of millions of dollars, with host France also targeting diplomatic progress for the conflict-ravaged country. The conference was attended by Lebanese Prime Minister Najib Mikati and French President Emmanuel Macron. Reiterating his call for a ceasefire in Lebanon, Macron said that France would provide 100 million euros. Lebanon requires $250 million a month to help millions displaced. Key players, including U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken, did nod attend the conference.
In the immediate term, massive aid must be provided to the Lebanese population, whether it is for the hundreds of thousands of people displaced by the war or the communities that are hosting them. The United Nations has launched an appeal for 426 million euros. France will provide 100 million euros at this conference. What is needed is simply to shelter families, feed children, care for the wounded, and continue to provide schooling for children. Solutions must be found quickly because we must at all costs prevent the displacement of people from the south, Beirut and other regions of Lebanon, and from creating new divisions among the Lebanese people.
So Israel struck Beirut's southern suburbs on Wednesday and Hezbollah fired precision-guided missiles at Israeli targets. A video released by Israeli army showed strikes on a Hezbollah command and control compound in southern Lebanon. The strike eliminated dozens of Hezbollah targets. On the other hand, Hezbollah attacked Israel for the first time with dozens of rockets fired on Thursday morning. Barrage of dozens of rockets were launched towards northern Israel. Exchange of fire between the regions comes at a time when U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken tours the region with the aim to halt the conflict. Meanwhile, North Korea has sent troops to Russia, which was confirmed by U.S. officials on Wednesday. The United States has said there is evidence that North Korea has sent about 3,000 soldiers who are being trained before being deployed to battlefields in Ukraine. North Korea has promised to provide about 10,000 soldiers to Russia, whose deployment will likely be completed by December.
We assess that between early to mid-October, North Korea moved at least 3,000 soldiers into eastern Russia. We assess that these soldiers traveled by ship from the Wonsan area in North Korea to Vladivostok, Russia. These soldiers then traveled onward to multiple Russian military training sites in eastern Russia, where they are currently undergoing training.
And reacting on this, South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol said on Thursday that Seoul will not sit idle over Pyongyang's deployment of troops in Russia. Yoon made these comments after talks with visiting Polish President Andrzej Duda, adding that the two countries agreed North Korea's deployment was a provocation that threatens global security beyond Korean Peninsula and Europe.
우리 두 정상은 북한의
We agreed that North Korea's dispatch of troops to Russia is a direct violation of UN Security Council resolution and UN Charter, and is a provocation that goes beyond the Korean Peninsula and Europe to threaten global security. I have made it clear that the Republic of Korea will never tolerate this and will take necessary steps with the international community in accordance with the progress of Russia-North Korea military cooperation.
취해 나갈 것임을 분명히 하였습니다.
And amid high tensions in the region, South Korea and the United States have conducted joint air drills to further improve operational sustainability and support capabilities. The 12-day Freedom Flag exercise got underway across various air bases in South Korea, mobilizing over 110 aircraft. All right, we'll cut across live now. India's Communication Minister Jyotiraditya Scindia is addressing the closing ceremony of ITU WTSA 2024 at Bharat Mandapam in the national capital.
Martin, Minister of State for Communications and Rural Development, Government of India, my colleague Chandrasekhar Pemasani ji, Secretary Telecom, Neeraj Mittal ji, TSP Director, ITU, CSO Ono ji, WTSA 24 Chair, RR Mittal ji, WTSA 24 Secretary, Bilal Jamusi ji, Excellencies present here, esteemed guests, members of the Telecom fraternity from across the world, friends from the media, ladies and gentlemen. It is with an immense sense of pride and gratitude that I stand before you today as we draw the curtains on the World Telecommunications Standardization Assembly 2024. This momentous gathering has united over 3,700 delegates from over 160 countries, marking a historic milestone in the annals of the WTSA. Such a resplendent assembly illuminates the indomitable spirit of global cooperation and the collective dream we all nurture of a more connected, a more inclusive digital tapestry. Over the past 10 days, we have embarked on an extraordinary odyssey. One that has not merely allowed us to envision a radiant digital future, but has also empowered us in order to be able to sculpt for the future through rich dialogues, audacious ideas, and transformative partnerships. WTSA 24 has demonstrated that when we unite under the auspices of a shared aspiration, we can forge a world where technology emerges as a beacon of inclusion, a beacon of equity, and a beacon of progress. The bonds forged and the wisdom exchanged have laid the cornerstone for a new dawn in telecommunications, one that generates global collaboration and shared prosperity. I was reflecting on the speeches of my colleagues and our Secretary General, Ms. Doreen Martin. We have had many sessions here. We have had many resolutions here. But over the past 10 days, I, for one, certainly have felt an intangible or tangible connection with my brothers and sisters across the world. As we sit together in various fora, exchanging diverse thoughts, diverse challenges, translating into opportunities. And the common refrain from over 10 to 12 sessions that I personally have attended is that the thought process that India has always embarked on, not over the last 75 years of her existence, but over the last 2,000, 3,000 years of her existence. The thought process and the paradigm that the world has a shared past. The world has a vested presence. and the world must look toward a shared future. Within all those diversities, like steel is tempered through flames, we have forged a sense of unity. What has been achieved here by 3,700 delegates across 160 countries is not a statistic. Yes, 8 resolutions have been forwarded. Yes, exchanges have taken place. But what each one of us must walk away with is that we have all come together on one stage, not as a citizen of our country alone, not as a representative of our institution alone, but as a member of humanity. It has been my first experience, Doreen, of the amazing work that your institution does. Day and night and night and day. And I dare say that the challenges that confront us today are much more complex than when this technology was first innovated. Much more complex than 2G, much more complex than 3G, much more complex than 4G, much more complex than 5G. Because what was seen as a form of communication has today become the highway on which the future of not only our countries, but the future of humanity in the next decade will be built, ladies and gentlemen. And that is what all of you are architecting today. And I would not be remiss to say that as a global citizen today, the world owes a debt of gratitude to ITU and the WTSA for the amazing work that all of you are doing in terms of taking the world forward into progress, into development. Technology is like an old banyan tree that has its roots firmly entrenched in Mother Earth. And over time develops its branches that protect and cast a shadow, a venerable shadow, over each and every citizen across of the globe. It unfolds tremendous opportunities, but must also have in its heart the concepts of inclusion, the concept of equity, the concept of progress, the concept of ethics, morality, transparency. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the role that the WTSA plays for the world today. The sessions that I attended, and the sessions and the deliberations that I heard of, whether it be the Global Standard Symposium, the AI for Good Summit. We will attend sessions on AI across the world, but you will only attend a session on AI for good in the WTSA. The concept of gender inclusivity, the network of women. Today we have 8 billion people in our world today. But there cannot be progress in our world without every single citizen being a part of that developmental path. And India has taken a great leap forward in terms of ensuring not only bridging the digital divide, but bridging the gender divide, some of which Ms. Martin has experienced firsthand when she visited my state a few days ago, where in India you now have not male drone pilots, but you have female drone pilots in the form of nano drone didis, ladies and gentlemen. So in rural India, whereas the men are farmers on the farms, the women are pilots in rural India. That is the potential that India has shown to the world. We talk of case studies, we have living case studies in India. Our Lakpati Didis, 100 million women organized into self-help groups that are not only taking themselves forward, but are contributing to the cause of nation building. The concept of disaster risk reduction across the globe, how we can all forge together to achieve that common goal for every single citizen across this Mother Earth. And therefore today, where 10 days ago I welcomed you all to India, the land of diversity, the land of inclusivity, the land of heritage, the land of culture, the land of innovation, the land of diversity. Anekta mein ekta is our motto. Unity in diversity is our motto. I do trust all of you have taken a little bit of India in your hearts, and they always say, once someone experiences a bit of India, that bit of India always remains in every single person for the rest of their lives. On this day, as we draw WTSA to a close, we emerge with a renewed sense of purpose and conviction. The path ahead is indeed adorned with challenges, but yet it brims with opportunities. Opportunities to harness technology as a catalyst of positive change, cultivating inclusive digital ecosystems, and empowering communities across the globe. India stands poised to play its part on this shared journey. We will continue to champion international collaboration. We will continue to contribute to the creation of global standards. And we will work tirelessly to ensure the technologies of tomorrow serve as instruments of growth and empowerment. I thank all of you for your tireless efforts, your valuable contribution. I thank the ITU and the WTSA and our Secretary General, Ms. Doreen Martin, for the 3 initiatives that the ITU has taken with specificity to India: R&D, prototypes, PhD students, and academic partnerships. As they say, Vasudeva Kutumbakam, our belief that the world is one family. This philosophy, ladies and gentlemen, embodies the thought of what we have achieved together here at WCA 24. United as one global family, we have endeavored to create a future where technology binds us, fortifies us, and bestows prosperity upon all of us. In India, we never say goodbye. We look forward to seeing you again very soon. Thank you. Dhanyavad. Jai Hind.
All right, so this was India's Communication Minister Jyotiraditya Scindia addressing at the closing ceremony of ITU WTSA 2024 in New Delhi. He said record number of attendance at ITU WTSA, which marks a historic milestone in global cooperation. The past 10 days, we have embarked on extraordinary odyssey, rich dialogues and transformative partnerships in WTSA. He also said that the 10 days event has helped global collaborations and shared prosperity. Many sessions and resolutions where India have shown the way. He also said that world must look towards a shared future. 3,700 delegates from across 160 countries, 8 resolutions have been forwarded in this edition. He also said that sessions that he attended were all good on different concept of gender inclusion. He also mentioned about AI. India has shown the way in bridging the technological divide and also the gender divide. Unity in diversity is our motto, he said, and hope you all must have taken a bit of India in you. The path ahead is adorned with challenges, he said, but it comes with a lot of hope, and India stands poised to play its part and continues to contribute in creation of global standards. Thank you, ITU and WTSA. So this was primarily the gist of what he said, and we'll have a detailed story in our subsequent bulletins. All right, moving on. One of the main drivers of Turkey's defense industry became the target of a terrorist attack on Wednesday, killing at least 5 and injuring over 22. In response, Ankara launched strikes targeting Kurdish fighters in Iraq and Syria.
Hours after a deadly terror attack shook Turkey, Ankara launched airstrikes targeting Kurdish fighters in Iraq and Syria. A total of 32 sites linked to the group were destroyed. Turkish government has blamed the group for the attack, which claimed 5 lives and left over 22 injured at the Turkish aerospace industry's campus. According to Interior Minister, 2 attackers were neutralized.
When compared to previous similar attacks, we have a strong opinion that it is in the PKK terrorist organization. But as I said, it will become certain once the identities of the attackers are determined, which we will announce with you to the public, our saintly people.
The attack has drawn widespread condemnation both within Turkey and internationally. During the meeting at the BRICS summit, Russian President Vladimir Putin expressed his condolences to the Turkish President Tayyip Erdogan. NATO, the European Union, Berlin and the White House also strongly condemned the assault on Turkey's defense firm.
I do want to start by extending our thoughts to the victims of the horrible terrorist attack in Ankara, Turkey this morning. Our prayers are with all of those affected and their families, and of course also the people of Turkey at this very difficult time. Now, Turkish authorities, as they said, are investigating this as a possible terrorist attack. And while we don't yet know the motive or who is exactly behind it, we strongly condemn this act of violence.
While no group has officially claimed responsibility for the attack, Turkish authorities suggest it bears the hallmark of the Kurdistan Workers' Party (PKK), a group listed as a terrorist organization by Turkey and its Western allies. The PKK has waged a long-running insurgency against the Turkish state. With inputs from Tripti Tripathi, Bureau Report, GD India.
And updates on US presidential polls. Former President and Republican candidate Donald Trump leads his Democratic rival Kamala Harris 47% to 45%. In the latest poll by Wall Street Journal, the poll surveyed 1,500 registered voters with a margin of error of plus minus 2.5 percentage points. Another poll by Financial Times showed Trump ahead of Harris 44% to 43% on the US economy. With only 12 days to the final verdict, in an attempt to sway voters, both candidates take a dig at one another. Vice President Kamala Harris called him a fascist, while Trump highlighted the issue of border security under the current government. And early voting for the US presidential election is currently on in most states of the United States of America, except for a handful of states where either early voting has closed or a very few states that don't allow it. When election day comes on November 5th, millions of voters will have already cast their ballots early, both by mail and in person. DD India's Amritpal Singh explains what the early voting system in US elections is. He caught up with voters as they came out from polling booths in the county of Travis in Texas. Listen in.
2 weeks to the election day and millions of Americans are already voting in early voting or through mail-in ballots. Early voting system in the US elections is designed for convenience of voters that they may cast their votes early or by mailing in ballots if they are traveling out of their counties or are unavailable for some reason on the election day.
Early voting is just voting before election day, and I do it to make sure I don't forget to get out and vote.
I was just trying to beat the crowds and get it done before, all the rest of the people tried to.
While people have different reasons for voting early, convenience being one of them, but in this election, there is this whole question of whether people's vote will be registered. I have one voter with me who's just cast her vote. Why did you opt for early voting?
I think there's a lot of excitement around this election, and I also think there's a lot of anxiety. You are hearing about the election for over a year, and so at this point, you just want to get it over with. So one of the reasons why I voted early was that I just wanted to make sure that my ballot was in, and I wouldn't have to wait in the long line. So both the anxiety and the excitement is what brought me here early.
Given the highly polarized campaign that this one has been, some voters are casting or even not casting early votes because they have apprehensions that their votes could be stolen.
I came in today because I wanted to be sure absolutely that my vote was going to be counted. And so I know with early voting that I could find a spot where there is not a big line, but also not have to worry about any weird things happening on election day where maybe people don't get to actually cast their vote.
I'm a little afraid that my state will throw out early votes, so I want to vote on election day this year.
According to early data, there are hints that Republicans may be cutting into the Democratic edge in early voting. That might cause concern for Democrats who remember 2020 when Democratic mail-in votes were critical to Joe Biden's victory. It could also simply mean that Republicans are doing more to encourage early voting. While analysts and strategists are trying to read trends into early voting based on who's voting more, is it Republicans, is it the Democratic voters, is it women, communities like Black Americans or Latinos, etc., and trying to read trends into it. But it's too early to call in the US election because early voting counts as much as the voting on the election day. So the House is still open as far as US elections go. With cameraman Sanjay Jena, this is Amritpal Singh for DD India in Austin, Texas.
And 24th October is observed as the UN Day. It was on this day that the Charter for the global body came into force in 1945. India is the founding member of the United Nations and has been leading the call for reform of the UNSA. DD India correspondent Shubhendu Ghosh reports from UN headquarters in New York.
वैश्विक शांति एवं विकास के लिए ग्लोबल संस्थाओं में रिफॉर्म्स आवश्यक है. रिफॉर्म is the key to relevance.
In September this year, Prime Minister Narendra Modi, addressing the Summit of the Future at the UN headquarters in New York, underlined the fundamental issue with multilateral organizations like the United Nations need to reform. The UN is observing its 79th anniversary on 24th October. UN Day marks entry into force in 1945 of the UN Charter, with the ratification of this founding document by the majority of its signatories, including India and the 5 permanent members of the Security Council. United Nations officially came into being on this date. There are currently 193 UN member states.
The focus of this General Assembly session is leaving no one behind. The effort of the international community, all nations, gathering at the UN has been to do a reboot of the multilateral system. This reboot of the multilateral system is going to impact positively all dimensions of the UN system. And last but not the least, on what we can all do together to combat climate change. For us, it is most important that we harness the UN system and the various frameworks for our own national growth and development.
To its initial goals of safeguarding peace, protecting human rights, and promoting economic and social progress, United Nations has added on new challenges like climate change, yet its ability to play a decisive role in tackling global conflicts and challenges has been put into question in recent years. India has led the call for UNSC reforms for many years. UN Day is an important day of reflection for the global body to decide on its future course of action and structure so that the challenges of the 21st century could be aligned with solutions of 21st century. With camera person Jaishankar, Shubhendu Ghosh at UN headquarters in New York for DD India.
And the growing dissidence among Canada's Liberal Party MPs over PM Trudeau's handling of internal and external affairs of the country has made things difficult for him, as the party gave him an ultimatum to either make up his mind or step down as Liberal leader by October 28. The development comes after the party lost two of its strongholds, Toronto and Montreal, in a special election held recently, showing a lack of leadership on Trudeau's part. One of the causes of the rift in party is attributed to the worsening ties between India and Canada, more recently since September last year. Now let's take a look at other stories making news around the world. Thousands of ferroviary transport workers and traders went on a strike in Lima against a wave of violent attacks and extortion in the country. In Lima, there have been 14 attacks on public transport services, leading to death of 3 drivers this year. The Democratic Republic of Congo's mineral-rich South Kivu province has suspended gold mining operations to curb hundreds of foreign companies from illegal extraction of the valuable metal without permits. A mega mural painted with ash from the Brazil wildfires has been inaugurated in Sao Paulo. The Brazilian street artist Mandeno's artwork denounced deforestation and environmental degradation in the country. American actor and stand-up comedian Ken Jeong received his own star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame in Los Angeles. Jeong is known for his role in shows such as Crazy Rich Asians and Community. All right, business updates now. NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang and Reliance Industries Chairman Mukesh Ambani had a fireside chat on artificial intelligence development in India at NVIDIA's AI Summit in Mumbai on Thursday. During the chat, Huang announced that Reliance and NVIDIA will join hands for a partnership to build and develop the AI infrastructure in India. Speaking on India's growing AI capacity and digital infrastructure prowess, Reliance Industries Chairman Mukesh Ambani expressed confidence that India will surprise the world with what it can do in artificial intelligence in a few years from now.
The IT industry of India is world-renowned for its very large scale and not just in size but in deep expertise of computer science. Very few countries in the world has this natural resource, this amazing natural resource called IT and computer science expertise. In the last couple of years, we've been working together to upskill, and we've now upskilled about 200,000 IT professionals into the world of AI. You know, what do we have to do together, and how can we work together to help transform India at the speed of light, really? Because everything is moving so fast, to transform India into a center not of just IT, but a center of AI.
So, from my point of view, Jensen, let me tell you my own experience in India. First, right, as our Prime Minister has said, that this is a new aspirational India. What we have today is we are among the only country in the world where the average age of 1.4 billion Indians is below 35. So what is driving our economy is not only new technologies like AI, but also aspirations. And I believe that, you know the Prime Minister, and I believe that his leadership in terms of converting India to a premier digital society has been vital and continues to drive activity at the ground level. It's fast becoming an innovation hub for the world in terms of where we are and not the manufacturing hub.
Now let's take a look at the stories from the world of sports now. We'll start with cricket. India's Washington Sundar claimed a career best 7-wicket haul, and spin partner Ravichandran Ashwin took 3 wickets to dismiss New Zealand for 259 on the opening day of the second test in Pune on Thursday. Washington justified his selection by skiing through New Zealand's middle and lower order to finish with 7 wickets for 59, while Ashwin took 3 wickets for 64 as India dismissed the tourists cheaply. But Devon Conway made 76 while Rachin Ravindra scored 65 before Washington took charge and put India in a strong position. In reply, the hosts reached 16 for 1 at stumps. India lost Rohit Sharma early, but Shubman Gill was unbeaten on 10 with Yashasvi Jaiswal 6 not out at the end of an absorbing day. And India's veteran bowler Ravichandran Ashwin has become the highest wicket taker in the ICC World Test Championship during the second test against New Zealand in Pune. The off-spinner took the wicket of Tom Latham and Will Young in the opening session of day 1 of the test to move to the top of the WTC wicket-taker standings. With 188 wickets, Ashwin surpassed fellow off-spinner Nathan Lyon of Australia, who has 187 wickets to his name. Ashwin has picked up 530 wickets in 104 test matches, making him India's second highest wicket-taker in the format, only behind Anil Kumble. And fast bowler Kagiso Rabada took 6 wickets in the second innings as South Africa won the first test against Bangladesh by 7 wickets on Thursday. They wrapped up victory before lunch on the 4th day in Beenpur. South Africa reached their target as they scored 106 for 3 wickets in the second innings. Opener Tony De Zorze scored 41 while Tristan Stubbs contributed with an unbeaten 30. Rabada took 2 wickets early on the 4th day to finish with figures of 6 for 46 in a match in which he celebrated passing 300 test wickets. The second test between the two teams in Chittagong starts on Tuesday. And the legendary Beatles icon Paul McCartney dazzled Argentine fans on Wednesday night with a captivating performance in Cordoba. Paul opened the show with his classic hit Can't Buy Me Love, sending waves of excitement to the devoted fans. Alright, that's all for this edition of DD India Live, but do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. And we'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Abhishek from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Live.